Alright, continuing this theme of photo bashing, basically going through and modifying photos. In this case, I'm looking at hand colourising. So taking a standard black and white photo, as you can see here with the man with the broom, and then adding some splash of colour to it. So I've got two sets. The first set is basically images that I've just whacked into black and white. And then the second set is actually stuff taken with ultraviolet photography to get like a slightly bizarre or different colour range. And so have a go at manipulating those. So I'm just going to start with a fairly simple one. In this case, because I'm going to have to manipulate this layer directly, I'm quite simply going to duplicate my background layer so I can then go through and modify it. So in this case, zooming right in to have a closer look at this image, you can see they're fairly low quality grainy, but that doesn't matter. I'm going to start by just colourising the ground. So there's a couple of ways of doing this. The easiest way is probably have to look at the colour replacement tool. And then in this case, I'm just going to select, say yellow, and then try and paint all this over. That does nothing. Wonderful, good to know. Probably because it's a black and white image. Oh, better check mode. Mode is RGB color. That's good. That's one thing you do need to check to make sure it's in the mode, because some of them will be remembered in grayscale or something unusual. So usually grayscale. And so you need it in the mixed color. But since technique 1 doesn't work, let's shift to technique 2, which is basically just using a standard brush. But in this case, I'm going to add color information. I'm going to shrink that brush size down. Whoops, there goes the entire photo, undo that. Using the square brackets, I'll shift the brush down and you can see it shifting there. And in this case, I'm really just trying to tackle a little bit of ground. And you can see it just adding a little splash of color. Now, if you want better control over what you're selecting, say this region of flowers, for example, this is where things like the quick selection tool and the magic wand become useful. It's also where your various lasso tools will become useful, and really it's just an opportunity to grab what you want to edit in a reasonable sense. I don't want that bit, so let's just remove that piece there. That will do. And then switching back to the color brush. Now if the color brush you find is too strong, it's too rich a color, there's a couple of ways you can change this. By clicking on the color token down here, I'm going to make these into sort of a softer green. And depending on where you select here, you can go for dark colors, light colors, find something appropriate in between, click OK. Splash that on there, you go, yeah, that's just too strong. Well, I'm just going to Control Z to undo this. If you don't know where the undo is, you can always look at this thing up here, undo. So I can soften it by dropping the opacity, and you can see that is now a lot softer. Of course, if I do a couple of sweeps of it, it's going to get richer and richer. Now, undo will only work a single step, so we need to go back a couple of states. Photoshop is probably the only program I know that does this. So I'm just going to shrink the brush and just add a little darker underneath here, just to add a splash of color to this scene, and then deselect. So here I've just, with a simple addition of color, and if I want to grab a color that I've used before, this is where the eyedropper becomes very useful. You can just click on it there, and it gives you the approximate color. Now this won't be my original color because it's taking what I'm painting on there and mixing it with the image that's already there, so the grayscale stuff that's going on. Get back to the brush, and I can hopefully make it happen. Oh, 1% opacity, that's not going to work for me. Alright. Yeah, sometimes you've just got to do a bit of live diagnostics to work out what you're doing wrong. Haha. So here, you can just patch it in. I mean, I could go to the effort of selecting it into the various rungs of the cart, but in this case, not so much. And you can see here, a fairly easy example of just playing with colorization. And yeah, enjoy, have fun, and experiment with it.